Alrighty. Well, I had a candle that I went to light up to keep the place warm one night when I didn't have the wood heater going. One of these ones from the auntie who's gone in the nursing home. And the candle smelt like a scented candle. And then you light it and it just smells like bloody burning plastic or something. It was scented, but not one that's nicely scented as it's burning, just scented as you buy it in the shop. And this, I'm not joking, this bastard was blowing black smoke within 5 minutes of lighting it. And I thought, you shit me. And it stunk. So, anyway, there were lots of different odd candles that come out of there. Um, and ultimately, this was one of them. And it was like a 3 wick thing, but all they got is like 3 tea light wicks inside this whole tin. Of course, it didn't really work, did it? And I still had this other candle that was smoking like hell. So I was putting the knife through it on a big block of wood, sort of like that. That's like a bloody 6x6 or something. Um, and it's very hard to get it to crack, and it's almost like cutting pumpkins, where all of a sudden, bang, it just drops. Um, and in the process, I was cutting the wax off and using it along with, a bit of hand sanitizer to get the fire going instead of wasting fire lighters and diesel, which cost money. So I got something like 26 containers of that hand sanitizer from work, of which there's still a whole shit ton under there. That's about bloody 4 deep or something. And ultimately, that's great for lighting the fire. Of course, I eventually went through all of that, but in the process, I was just sort of cracking it with the knife and then just sort of pulling it off of the blooming wick. And I had this big wick left, and I had stuff which didn't burn properly. And energy drink, of which I had one, and through a lot of playing around with that old wick and old bean tin. There was actually corn in that one. You very gently heat it on the gas stove, which I do not recommend because it's extremely bad fire risk. As the wax starts smoking, you're liable to bloody near burn your kitchen down. I sort of had an idea of what I was doing because I understand what happens when wax starts to vaporize because of all these little throwing candles in the wood heater for years. So ultimately, I had a bit of this one here left over, which was a square one, but it sort of burnt the middle and left the outside. And so there's the scented one from that green tin there. You can see that's the lighter colour. And then there's a little bit of that, but mostly mixed with that square candle from there on up. And as she cooled, she sort of caved in the top there. And I made the stupid mistake of actually cutting a hole in the bottom, so the wick's right through to the bottom. And ultimately, even though I put a bit of masking tape on, we had some terrible leaks, but thankfully I got all these strange little bits and pieces sitting around that are nondescript dipping sauce things that are porcelain, and so I quickly shoved it in there and we saved the day. Ultimately, it was not a good idea. I find you can dip a wick into hot wax and pull it out straight and let it cool, and it'll cool straight. But I had this, and you could probably use a clothes peg to hold the one at the top, but I had this all strung up with a hole in the bottom that leaked, but then when it sort of cooled properly, then it sort of, the bottom piece was hard. I don't really think it left a line. You might see a little line about a half-inch up there. I think you can barely. But it sort of all worked out anyway once the bottom cooled, but you'd be a lot better to dip your wick in hot wax, pull it out, and leave it hanging vertical, which is what they generally do. And then that gives you a straight wick to drop down. And instead of mucking around with a bit of blooming cotton thread and a bit of cardboard and tape and all this other bullshit that was holding on top, you'd probably just be easier to stick a clothes peg over the top of this. And what you basically do is once you drink it, you get box cutters and you just cut through here. And you could probably even use a can opener, possibly, because you got a rim there. and that becomes your thing to put it in. And yeah, so I'll use some of the little leftover bits and throw them into there when I light this, so it'll sort of melt and fill up that hole. And it's just probably contracted, as it's called. And yeah, so it's sort of, I'm bloody pleased as punch that it's coming. I was going to get bigger ones, and I thought, yeah, I know exactly what will happen. Be the same as like this one here. You'll have a big rim, or this one you have a big rim. And I thought, I don't want the big rim. I just want it to burn normal. So anyway, I had a wick that I bought on a whim, thinking I could use it for an oil burner, and it's probably not big enough for that. And in the end, I thought, what am I doing? I threw it out. I think I threw it out. I hope I can still find it because I got all of these, and bloody literally 3/4 or more, 4/5 of these bastards. You light them up, it burns the wick out, and that's it. Doesn't go very long at all. And if it does, that's as best as you bloody get. So I'm going to need another wick and another melt, and yeah,